Hello everyone, welcome back to another Wano deck deep dive. Today featuring the 35th VDV division, as we are going in with a really interesting little deck that has dominated the meta in the past for a long while. Issue with it being, that's a good while ago, and I tested this deck a lot, and my first 6 ranked games were all losses. And I tested quite a bit more. I also haven't lost against this deck on the other side in a long while, so it was tough to find a deck that actually works now. Which I found a bit surprising, because when I look at tier lists and so, I always see this deck pretty high up there. I don't quite get any more why. And in my next tier list, this deck will be a good bit further down. But after a good bit of testing, I found a deck that most of the time works. And I actually got a good couple of wins with. So let's get here into 35th VDV. Also, really important for this one will be helicopters. And if you want to get better with them, watch my helicopter guide video that just came out. And yeah, let's get into the 35th VDV here, where we start in the logistics tab with Deschamps Belojors, BRDM 2Us, Mi-8s, and gas. So 2 supplies, 5 CVs. You can't get any in the tank tab. Your infantry tab needs other units as well, so 2 cards here, and then a BMD2 leader here. As your forward deploy ones might sometimes get sniped, you kind of want to have 7. Like, I tried it as well with 5, cutting out the Belojor to get some more supply in, which sometimes can be needed, but I feel like 7 CVs is just a safer route here. If you feel like you're confident with 5, cut out the Belojor, take in another supply card. Infantry tab is pretty versatile as well, and yeah, a key part of this, as you wanna get into positions early on, and there the forward deploy helps out a lot. Spetsnaz, one of the best CQC units. OP Spetsnaz, a good AT ambusher that also can break behind enemy lines, ambush resupply routes, which can be really nice. Deschamps Afghansi just got a buff lately with the Mountaineer trait, being able to run through forests, and firepower-wise is quite nice as well. 60 points is pretty fair for a 3 vet unit. With 3 vet, this unit really does good damage. Deschamps Nikki Medis, good forward deployment as well, that can hold off enemy units with its Medis ATGM decently well. And then we come to our forward deploy IFVs, and my first big issue with this deck currently is that these don't really feel that amazing. That's why we take them at 2 vet, going down to 4, because at 1 vet I feel like they're really not great at all. The infantry inside is okay, but also only 1 light machine gun. The sniper, yeah, it's okay squad for 45 points, but 6 hit point for 45 doesn't feel amazing. With the sniper rifle and the extra veterancy, they do okay. And the BMD2, it's just, yeah, it's just okay, because it doesn't have smoke. The 2 frontal armor means it dies to any ATGM out there, and a lot of tank guns being able to one-shot it quite easily as well. And its Conquerors has a long reload time now, and only 3 rounds. So you run out of ATGMs real quickly. You can't really push with it into enemy positions, because it gets shot into pieces quite quickly. And on the defense, yeah, with the Conqueror's rate of fire cut down, it's not the dominant force it once has been, where the enemy couldn't cross an open field, because you could just spam it down with ATGMs. Like, the tanks smoke once and then they are in range until you have reloaded, and then they just shoot you and kill you. And as I said, I haven't seen it from both sides, and this thing really only works on 2 vet, and even then, not the most amazing. So I cut the numbers down to 2 cards, where back in the day you would run all 3 cards and get as many BMD2s out as possible, but first of all they went up 5 points, and then yeah, all the nerfs to the ATGM, to the autocannon, really have left the BMD2 in a okay spot, but it's not the beast it once has been. The BTR the robot, for 40 points getting a Conquerors and still having the good rate of fire, that is a way more interesting unit in my eyes for this deck, because you have to play this deck with getting ground early and then defending it, and ATGMs are pretty good at that. So getting more Conquerors teams with Conquerors, getting some Fagot teams with the Conquerors, that's the business here. That's where you just want to set up the wall. And I buy these guys way more often than I buy the BMD2s currently, especially early on in the game. So that's where it's at the moment. When you want to play against mechanized divisions, these 2 cards, in my eyes, the more important ones. And we come to artillery, where we have a pretty good card here with the D30 on 2-vet. Like, that with 3 availability. It goes down to really low aim time, goes down to decent rate of fire, so I feel like there the D30 can come in really handy and give you some capabilities in the early game to push a bit deeper, because yeah, you only can take ground in the early game, and then a Nonna and D30 can come in, can take out enemy recon squads that then allow your ATGMs to get into better positions. Like, this really is the key unit to take out enemy recon, and a big focus, even more so than targeting enemy ATGM positions, because you don't have that many vehicles anyway that ATGMs can target. AA pieces, pretty key factor as well, because your helicopters and aircraft need to get through. So yeah, AA and Recon should be your target. And if the enemy has great counter battery, then take the 2 Nonnas instead, so that you can rotate them around. If the enemy is a deck that doesn't have great counter battery, the D30s are the way better option here, in my eyes. So just go with them. Tank depth is a lot more ATGMs, and the D44s. With the good stealth, they can ambush from a side nicely. They can be good fire support against enemy infantry trying to push over an open field as well. And against IFVs can be quite handy as well, with their good rate of fire and decent accuracy. So D44s here, quite helpful. Conquerors with the good stealth. Yeah, this is a really key unit in this deck. Getting good ATGM onto the target. Same goes for the UATs, coming out early, giving you some fast forward deploy ATGMs to deal with something like an AMX-10 or so. So the UATs Conquerors and the BRDM Conquerors, both really key for this deck. So once more, units that I often buy before the BMD2s nowadays. BRDM2 Conquerors with the good stealth can really help you out with the ambushes, especially if you get the enemy recon killed off early on with your infantry, with your artillery, with your helicopters. And then maybe the enemy has to push on with a bit weaker recon. The BRDM2s can often just fire away. They are fast, they can disengage out of positions where the BMD2, for example, struggles. And they have 10 rounds, so you don't need to resupply them. They have great autonomy until, like, if you fire 10, the Conquerors, they have usually more than paid off. So that's the reason why these are so crucial here. Recon, Special CRU, GSR, exceptional optics, pretty key. Mi-8, exceptional optics, really key for the helicopter plop. Then Dash and Redredka, just your normal cheap recon that you can bring around at any point in the game. Coming in a KPVT UATs that can help out against enemy recon infantry pushing around, against enemy infantry in general pushing around, that when the enemy is fearful of your ATGMs and they just try to push infantry around, this actually can deal decent damage. Plus gives you optics. And then we have the Dashant Motorradredka with the Mi-24D Dashant transport, just to get a couple more heavy helicopters out there. 8 hit points, fast flying, rockets. The Yak be only good against infantry, but can deal decent damage there. And the recon infantry inside, pretty decent as well, with the 2-vet. The stress resilience and the firepower of both units is pretty decent as well. Accuracy there goes up nicely. And that's, availability wise, why we take it over the Mi-24K. The very good optics here is nice. These don't have good optics, but you just get a good bit more numbers, and you have the Mi-8 MTAs. 3 of those should get your helicopter plop enough vision as needed. AA, you get a lot of guns, and those are really helpful to help out your infantry fights with the Scrats. Eagle teams with high veterancy here at 6 availability at least get decent stats as well. Aim time goes a good bit lower, accuracy goes up, so they at least have a chance of hitting planes flying over them. Still don't deal great damage, but range and stuff isn't okay, and you really need them to be able to support your fighters in some matchups, because your fighters aren't the greatest. They're okay, but for an airborne deck, you kind of wish for something like SU-27s, or maybe, yeah, like MiG-29s, as we will see. They are decent, but they are only that. They're not the top level, which as an airborne deck you would want to have. ZU-23, good infantry fire support. That's what they're here for. Running towards enemy, like supporting your infantry pushes around and just shredding enemy infantry, and helicopters if they fly into, planes, slow flying planes if they fly into, but mostly here for the infantry fire support for cheap, so that you can shred through enemy units there. Helicopter tab, we have the Mi-24 VAA to deal with enemy recon helicopters early on. We have the two Akulas, which you usually want to bring out a bit later on when you have enough fighters, when you have enough AA on the ground, so that you can protect them and that not the first suicide fighter flying into them kills them, because 250 points means that a lot of fighters are cheaper and all fighters have better availability than this, so you don't want to trade them 1-1. If the enemy sends 2 fighters in and you kill them and the Akula dies, then okay, maybe, but not 1-1. So you have to be careful when you want to bring them out. Though once they're out, the Vickers is fantastic, has motion accuracy, so this thing can shoot and fly away. 26 damage is fantastic. Accuracy and static is great as well. The rockets and cannons are solid. The 20% ECM can be helpful, so that single fighters sometimes don't kill it, and ground-based AA will struggle as well. Mi-24 VP with the 16 cocons just can hold the spot out nicely, and if you land it, can just fire from the ground really nicely there. 270 KMH, 20% ECM, solid statistics there as well. So for 210 points, really interesting little helicopter. And then we have the cheaper variants with 8 cocons and 40 missiles. Those come in quite handy as well. As with the 7 Recon helicopters, you go up to 13 helicopters total. And that means that if you deal with enemy AA with your seaplanes that will come to, with your artillery, and maybe with the helicopters, then you have a decent chance of maybe running out the enemy of AA. That can be a win condition as well. But it's not an easy one nowadays. Helicopters are not the beasts that just can fly through enemy AA that we had before. You have to be a lot more methodical about it. And you can't just win with a big helicopter plop that easily nowadays. So you have to be a bit more precise. You have to use your ground units a good bit more. And then come in with the helicopters when they can come in. And micro them nicely with changing altitude, landing, and getting them out of dodge when needed. And the fighters are pretty key for that as well. To keep them alive, to stay above your helicopters and shoot down anything that tries to run on top of them. And that's why we need the MiG-29s. And you get one good card and one a bit weaker card. And that's a bit unfortunate. Or you get 2 of the bit weaker cards. If you would get 2 of the better ones with the R73s, which are a lot more reliable than the R60Ms, which have way lower range and lower accuracy, so in a head-on fight, they are a good bit weaker. Like a lot weaker. That would help out. 10 points, I think this is a big debuff. The MiG-23ML has double R60. This is a decent one at hunting down helicopters, and in numbers it also overwhelms the enemy. Like, this is usually the plane you want to have in front of your MiG-29, so the enemy shoots at this, and if it dies, it dies. If it doesn't die, it gets its missile offs, but the MiG-29s can't shoot their strong R27Rs, which is on both, so the long-range capability on both is somewhat similar. And yeah, that's why the MiG-23, MiG-29 combo is what you want to have. Plus, you can get 2 fighters for 355 points here out there. And having 2 fighters is infinitely better than having 1 fighter out there. If the enemy only has 1, they usually gonna lose. And if they trade against your MiG-23ML, they're usually gonna trade down as well. So you get some victory there. So this is really the combo you want to have. And then we have the seaplane, super important to deal with something like roll-on 3s or so on that otherwise shred your helicopters. And key here to have around, even against decks that don't have any radar AA, you sometimes want to bring it just to see what shoots at it. Fly it over enemy AA, see what shoots at it, though unfortunately it does only have 40 ECM, not the 50, 60 ECM that some of the top level seaplanes have. It has a lot of radar seat missiles, so you can keep it around even after shooting 2 and still keep the enemy radar turned off. And MiG-27 MAT is around to shoot at enemy AA as well and help out a bit there as well. The KH-29T with the Fire and Forget is pretty nice. Can help out against tanks if need be as well. I would like to use some of the HE bombers as well to maybe deal with enemy AA, but they're all not great. The MiG-27 is pretty slow. The bombs are only 4. The MiG-25 has an insanely large turn radius here. The seat one somehow has a really small one, especially for a MiG-25, whilst the MiG-25 HE has the largest turn radius of 2,300 meters in the game. Like, these fighters here have 1,300. This one has 1,000 for some reason, and this has 2,300 meters turn radius, so it always flies over all the enemy EA after dropping its bomb and it's just gonna die. So that's why I stay away from this. So, yep, that's why we end up with the MiG-27M. And this is the deck. So, strengths and weaknesses. Strengths, fantastic forward deployment. Strength number 2, you get a great helicopter tap. And strength number 3 is you get endless amount of ATGM. Like, those are the 3 things that you have to leverage. The forward deployment to get some points, the ATGMs to nail those points down and get a long enough tick that the enemy can't just get over you with a +1, +2 tick later on in the game, because often they will get that and then you're in trouble. So you need to get enough points early on. And the helicopters are there as the wild factor that can push around a bit, that can help out the pushes, that can help out the flanks, and those 3 things that you have to go for you. And the weaknesses are, you don't have any tanks in any capacity. You don't have any long-range AA in the AA tab, so you have to fully rely on your MiG-29s, which is pretty unfortunate. Like, any long-range AA here could help out a big time, or even some medium ones like a Tunguska or so. You don't get that. You only get man-pads there, or something similar like the Strela one, which is not really better. So that's 2 of the big weaknesses. And then, yeah, weakness number 3, I would say, is that you don't get any smoke APCs or IFVs, the BMD2s, and no BTRs or anything like that. Like, that's another thing that just takes away from our push capabilities later. Like, tanks are key for pushing. Long-range AA arguably as well, because otherwise it's hard to protect yourself against dive bombers still with this deck. You have to get your MiG-29s into the right spots and so on. And yeah, sometimes the enemy just can dive bomb your Spetsnaz, and that feels terrible, because this is a 90-point unit. And you really have to figure that out. And as I said, your advantages are there, but you have to leverage them hard. And often the strategy playing against this deck is you just don't do much against it. You set up nicely, you don't lose anything, and then you push them at the 20-25 point mark and just completely eliminate them from the field. Because they don't have any staying power without tanks and so on. And that's what you have to play around playing this deck as well. You have to be fast. You have to get some +3, +4, and then maybe win the game early, or if not, at least be so far ahead that the enemy can't get you, and just use really good ATGM positions to constantly lock the enemy down and snipe their Recon, because they can't advance well against you without Recon. So that should always be your number 1 priority. If you see a Recon unit, kill it. If the enemy runs out of Recon, they die. If they run out of AA, they die. Those are your only 2 late game win conditions. All the other stuff usually doesn't work. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and see you on the next one. Let me know down below what you think of 35th. Where would you rank it currently? And see you there. Bye-bye.